Well, I started out at a local college. First, I was at South Texas College, and then at UT Pan American, and then I transferred to the University of Texas at Austin. I transferred because some professors encouraged me at UTPA to explore a wider range of course offerings for what I wanted to pursue. I wanted to work on a diverse set of skills. I wanted to work on linguistics. I wanted to do things more in mathematics. I wanted to really play to a variety of different fields before figuring out exactly what it is I wanted to do. Once at UT, I really flourished and found great mentors there, and then they as well encouraged me to go on and to apply to Berkeley.
Wonderful. And why do you think a lot of bright young people like yourself from the Valley who leave for college tend not to return?
I think they start out in the Valley with this mindset that there's not a lot within the Valley, that everything that they can gain from is external to the Valley. And then they find good things in other places, and then that belief that good things are only external to the Valley is really reinforced for them.
And so you're here in Austin at South by Southwest, and can you tell us about your panel discussion here?
Yeah, so we were talking about how to allocate capital as startups, but also as investors. So 2 members of the panel were investors and 2 were startup CEOs.
So tell us about your company.
So at Writelab, we develop software to help people really relax into their own writing. We do this by enabling them to practice confidence in a couple of different ways. We provide revisions for them for really low order issues, not just grammatical issues, but also issues of clarity, of concision, sometimes even of logic. And we generate comments as well as questions for higher order areas, things like the global coherence of their writing, things like how their draft connects with other pieces of writing they've done in the past, so that we can really show how they progress as writers over time. And all of this is done automatically through artificial intelligence.
Incredible. And what can you tell students that might help them in their journey after high school?
Stay open to possibilities. Continue to study and pursue what moves you the most, because a passion-driven curriculum is going to get you much further than this feeling of having to learn a thing for some application that you don't really care about or isn't of any interest to you.
And as someone in the edtech industry, what news do you see on the horizon? What new things do you see out there?
I think consumers are going to demand more and more artificial intelligence. I think the last 10 years have been about connecting people online, about messaging apps, about different ways of communicating with other people. And now I think there's an impetus towards big data and towards apps that are actually going to interact with you in a much more intelligent way.
Awesome.
So I can only talk about my own success coming out of the Valley. And one thing that I think I did well was I leveraged mentorships in the Valley. I sought out mentors, and there are great mentors that I found in high school, at STC, at UTPA. And I used those and I built off of those to learn how to really interact with a mentor, how to not have to reinvent everything for myself, but to really learn from best practices. And it just so turns out that that's also the method of managing networks out in Silicon Valley. That a lot of the success in Silicon Valley is because people help each other. And they leverage each other's experience. Even if somebody is only 2 years further along than you in working on a company, you can learn about, okay, this is what they did at that stage of growth. These are the best practices here. Let me experiment with those. Those may not be the best practices for me, but I know that they've already been successful, so I'm going to leverage those. And I think that in the Valley, people need to use a lot of the local talent and a lot of the mentorship that people are so generously willing to give.
And so on that, a lot of students don't have the experience or the know-how to say, I need to find someone. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had that initiative to go and find a mentor. And so how do you suggest that they do that? Finding that right person to kind of guide them.
I think they need to be more articulate about what it is that they're interested in. I think when they express themselves with passion, that the mentors will really catch sight of them and say, well, why don't you develop that a little bit further? Why don't you tell me a little bit more about that, or what do you want to do with that? And I think that's how great teaching happens, and that's how great mentorship happens. I think people need to get over the idea that everything external to the valley is where the good stuff is, and really see the value that's available in their local culture.